Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Alan, this is my life in Taiwan, and recently I made a video listing 5 reasons that life in Taiwan is better for me than life in the UK. And it seemed well received by you guys. Lots of views, lots of likes, and most importantly, lots of comments for me to interact with in the comment section. But it was no surprise to me that the majority of those comments were somewhat positive, as 80% of my audience is Taiwanese. Therefore, they are much more likely to agree with me when I'm singing the praises of this wonderful country. But in that video, I jokingly stated that one of my future videos would no doubt be 5 reasons why the UK is better for me than life in Taiwan. And in true YouTuber fails to think of solid content ideas fashion, here I am in the exact same park making a video arguing against a life in Taiwan after just a few videos ago making the exact opposite point. But anyway, let's get straight into the first point that I'm going to make, why my life in UK would be better than a life in Taiwan. And it's an easy one that I've mentioned many times before, and that's my family. Yep, I have a huge extended family in the UK, and not to mention, of course, my beautiful son William and my ex-wife baby mama over in South Africa. And this in theory should outweigh any of the positives that I can talk about with Taiwan, because of course family comes first, and they are the people that will always be there for you in times of trouble, of which I've been having quite a lot recently. But when thinking about this video and thinking of reasons and explanations of why I don't live with my family, why I live so far away from my son, I've got nothing. No answer, no excuse. It's probably going to be one of the biggest regrets in my life, spending so much time away from them. But the only reason or excuse I can give is that, first of all, I love the excitement of my life here in Taiwan. The new experiences, the foods, the culture, the people, the life that I had of being a teacher in a cram school for 10 years. And then, of course, now being a YouTuber with all of the freedom to enjoy Taiwan as much as I like, for selfish reasons, have led me to choose to continue my life here, thousands of miles away from the people who love me the most. And that's certainly a double-edged sword or a catch-22 situation that I am going to have to deal with more and more as life goes on for us on opposite sides of the world and we spend more and more time apart. In fact, one conversation I fear the most is when William grows up and he's big enough to be able to kick my ass, and he puts to me all those difficult questions about why I didn't spend so much time with him back in South Africa. I think my parents and my family can deal with the fact that your son spreads his wings and goes abroad and lives a different life, but explaining to William why I was in Taiwan to earn money to pay for his childhood instead of being poor in the country next to him, that's gonna be tough for me to talk to him about that. But yes, I will be honest to him and explain to him my reasoning, and yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So to sum up that first point, my family don't live in Taiwan. That makes my life here much worse than it would be if they did. But of course, the situation has been strongly compounded by COVID-19, and I've not been able to get back the couple of times a year that I usually do. Hopefully 2022 will see some changes and some opening of doors that will allow me to travel a little bit more, get back, see my family, and reset myself somewhat. Reason number 2 that a life in the UK would strongly outweigh that of a life in Taiwan was something that a lot of people commented on in the last video, and that's the traffic. In fact, from looking at those comments on that previous video, it appears that most people in Taiwan would agree that the traffic is almost certainly one of the worst things about life in Taiwan for everyone. Not just being stuck in city center traffic on your way to work, but with as many as 1,500 to 2,000 road deaths every year here in Taiwan, which although is similar to the number of road deaths in the UK, when we consider the population of the UK is almost 3 times that of Taiwan, you can start to see how serious the risk is when driving here in Taiwan, either on a scooter, in a car, or certainly even when crossing the street or riding a bike. I've made several videos on this topic before, but when we consider this huge difference between the number of road deaths per year between the 2 countries, this item simply has to make it onto the list. In fact, since I moved to my new apartment back in July, this is one of the major reasons that I've actually given up driving a scooter or driving my car here in Taiwan. I've just heard too many horror stories and read too many news articles about people losing their lives unnecessarily on the roads here. Therefore, I'm using the MRT a lot due to its convenience, and I'm U-biking on sidewalks and through parks rather than using my scooter. Partly out of convenience and necessity, but I do start to consider now how dangerous and unnecessary most journeys are. In the UK, the roads are much less crowded, far fewer scooters, much more obedience of basic traffic rules is something that is just instilled in us from an early age as drivers that just doesn't seem to happen here in Taiwan. I think we can probably maybe explore the root cause of the poor traffic in another video in future, or possibly take a look at what can be done to fix this problem in the long term. So if you have any ideas of what can be done to fix the traffic problem, then please leave it in the comment section and I'll get to it in a future video. My next point, number 3, is going to be an age-old problem that's often associated with Taiwan, something we don't often like to talk about, and that's
China. 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 China.
It's a topic that I've avoided on the channel recently, partly because I've already shared enough of my relatively naive opinions on the subject, and there are a plethora of other channels that can address the nuances of the situation much better than I can. But actually, I also feel that it's a point that many people in Taiwan don't care too much about. And more often than not, it's the rest of the world getting their knickers in a twist about the situation when Taiwanese people just go on with their lives. But I have to be honest and include it in this video when I'm talking about a theoretical life in the UK compared to a life here in Taiwan. If I were in the UK, never having had come to Taiwan, the threat of military action from China would probably never enter my mind. But here in Taiwan, it is not a ridiculous notion to suggest that one day Mr. Xi over there in China won't wake up in a rather bad mood and just decide to hit that big red button and start World War III. I personally don't think it will ever happen, but if it does, I will definitely try my best to keep this channel going for as long as the powers that be allow it. But I'll certainly do my... It's been binked on the head by a seed. But I'll certainly do my best to keep the channel going and share my life in Taiwan throughout such a crazy, ridiculous event. As I said, I don't think it'll happen. I don't worry about it too much. But one thing I do worry about in such an event is my family. They've already talked about it to me. And of course, if something does happen, they will worry like crazy, especially since the international propaganda machine has already stirred up quite a lot of fear and anxiety about what will happen if an invasion ever begins. As I said, the people of Taiwan are not too worried about it on the whole, but when making a video like this and looking for reasons as to why a life in the UK would be better than a life in Taiwan, then not having a big bullying communist country of 1.5 billion people hanging over you like the sword of Damocles is certainly a positive checkmark for a life in the UK. So my fourth point regarding why life in the UK would be better for me brings me to this apartment and compare it to what I would be able to rent or maybe even buy if I lived in the UK. And there's 2 reasons why. Firstly, I feel like Taiwan's housing market is absolutely bonkers, and this tiny little 1-bedroom apartment would probably cost me the same amount to buy as my parents' 4-bedroom home in the northwest of England. And yes, I know, I understand, this is in the city, my parents live in the suburbs, but it's not just the size of the house that I'm considering here, but also the style. I've compared UK houses with Taiwanese houses in a previous video, but there's just something about growing up in a certain style of house with a certain level of comfort and then having that style or comfort level changed so drastically when moving to another country that gives me a permanent sense of homesickness that I just can't shift. Carpet, wallpapers, radiators, sheds, gardens, garages, all things that just don't really exist here in Taiwan. Yes, I could probably decorate a house to make it look like a British house on the inside, and of course I could move to live in the countryside to be able to afford a bigger place, but that's just not possible either because of my work or because I'm a renter, and of course it's much more difficult to buy a house as a foreigner here in Taiwan. Probably for good reason, but the banks here make it very difficult for you to secure a loan unless you have some kind of huge deposit, usually in the area of around 30% the price of the house, which to me totally makes sense, as because when I lived in the UK, I actually, with my ex-girlfriend, bought a house and the bank loaned us 120% of the value of the house. I think the house cost £80,000 and the bank loaned us close to £100,000. Crazy banking practices that ultimately led to the financial collapse of 2008. So I can understand why it's more difficult to borrow huge amounts of money here in Taiwan without a huge collateral up front. Either way, that's not really the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to say is that I just can't shift that homesickness feeling when I FaceTime call my family and I see them surrounded by all of these home comforts that I got so used to growing up as a kid back in England. So that's it. That's my top 5. Actually top 4 reasons as to why a life in the UK might be better for me than a life in Taiwan. And I really tried to come up with a 5th, but that's basically all I could come up with. If I gave you a 5th, it'd be a bit of a lie and a little bit weak. Of course, there's the language problem that entered my mind, but that's my responsibility to study. There are foods that I miss in the UK, of course, but I can always get them imported or make my own version of them. But if you are a foreign expat living in another country, either here in Taiwan or a Taiwanese person abroad overseas, I'd love to get your stories and your comments in the comment section. What do you think are the best things and worst things about life between the two countries? Share with me as much as you want, because I'd really love to get your stories and know that I'm not the only person going through this constant cycle of indecisiveness, not knowing which country is better than the other and always comparing the two countries against each other. So if you're in the same boat, let me know. But I think that's it for now. Time to say goodbye. So as for now and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in My Life in Taiwan. Peace. Bye bye.